All right, let's talk Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, the season up to this point hasn't gone the way anyone was hoping it would, and the Raiders are making big changes. Earlier this week, of course, there's a big move when it comes to the coaching staff. I think based on some recent reporting we've gotten from an insider, another move could be coming when it comes to the most important position on the field. We'll get to all that reporting and what it means going forward in just a second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders, of course, in a really bad spot, trying to do some things, make some changes to improve this team when it comes to the future. Obviously, fired offensive coordinator Chip Kelly a short time ago. It was the right move to make for sure. It just wasn't working out. Now, based on some recent reporting from a name I trust, it looks like a change at quarterback could be around the corner when it comes to what the coaches are thinking. Let's get into the report here, then we'll talk about what it means on the other side. This is courtesy of Raiders Beat. The Raiders sent a fifth-round pick to the Browns for Kenny Pickett in August, and it's starting to feel like that decision might not have been a good one. Despite Geno Smith's struggles in the first half of the season, head coach Pete Carroll hasn't been willing to play Pickett, and former Raider great Lincoln Kennedy said this week that the coaching staff has more confidence in Aiden O'Connell than Pickett. There are a lot of coaches that believe more in Aiden O'Connell than Kenny Pickett, Kennedy said on the Locked On Raiders Squad Show podcast. I've sensed that just from the nomenclature and everything that's been going around the locker room that I've seen. Kennedy continued, it's just the feel that I get from sense of watching things go. With that being said, it's one of those things where if Aiden O'Connell is going to be your number two or is going to get back into your number two, the big thing is it doesn't matter who's the quarterback. You got to get this offensive line situation figured out. All right, so first and foremost, talk about Lincoln Kennedy. He obviously is a former Raider great, but he's not a guy that's unfamiliar to the media. He was doing a lot of things. He was one of those early NFL Network guys. For those who really remember the beginnings of the NFL Network way back in the day, Lincoln Kennedy, he's obviously was an NFL great, longtime offensive lineman for the Raiders, but he's really good in the media, has good sources. He's an honest broker. He is a name I trust for sure. And that last part of his report, of course, talking about, listen, the O-line situation is bad. We all understand that, but we got to figure out the quarterback position for the Las Vegas Raiders. And if we're being totally honest with ourselves, Geno Smith has been a total disaster this year. And do I think it's all Geno Smith's fault? Of course not. But when you go a veteran quarterback with Geno Smith, listen, he's not going to be the long-term answer for any team at this point. You bring in a veteran quarterback for stability. And with this offensive line situation and just the moves they've made, the way they've played, it just hasn't worked out. Now you got to decide, is there any quarterback on your roster that even has a chance to be the future of this team? And like the report mentioned, like Kennedy talked about, it's not Kenny Pickett, because if it was, Kenny Pickett would already be playing, right? He would have started against the Browns or something like that, right? I think right now the Raiders, internally, their coaches believe that Aiden O'Connell still has a chance to be a potential guy to compete to be the long-term starter for the Raiders. And I think they're about to make a change. I think the big reason they don't want to bench Geno Smith just yet is because they're waiting for Aiden O'Connell. Again, he was activated not long ago to get 100% healthy, to get fully on board, back in the swing of things. Because remember, when you're on injured reserve, you're separate from the team, right? You're not going through practice. You're not going through all that kind of stuff. So it takes a week or two, sometimes 3 weeks for a guy to get activated, to get back in the swing of things and to get comfortable, going through the game plans, going through the meetings and that entire process. Once that exact second that happens, that Aiden O'Connell is comfortable, I'm willing to bet right now that the Raiders are going to make a change at the quarterback position. And listen, we saw it come to a head. Geno Smith, of course, flicking off the home crowd. He apologized for it later. But, I mean, you talk about an end of a time. I think that's pretty emblematic of what Geno Smith, where he's at, where the Raiders are at, where the entire franchise is at with this quarterback position. I think a change is coming, and it's not going to be Kenny Pickett. It's going to be Aiden O'Connell. And listen, I don't know if Aiden O'Connell's the answer or not. He's had some good moments. He's had some bad moments. But you need to decide, if you're the Raiders, as you head into a quarterback draft class in 2026 that should be pretty solid, what is your problem? Do you address O-line draft, offseason, free agency, full bore? Or is quarterback your priority? And you have to evaluate Aiden O'Connell in order to determine your priority. If Aiden O'Connell plays well and you think he can actually be a guy, then maybe O-line is your number one priority. If you look at Aiden O'Connell, again, in a tough position, and he doesn't do well, okay, maybe quarterback needs to be the number one priority. Because we all know, right, a head coaching change is probably going to happen. Pete Carroll is probably not going to be here long term, just the way things are looking right now. Maybe it changes. That's just the way it's looking right now. We reported on this about a week ago. The reality is, if you know you're going to bring in a new head coach, they're going to want to see what the quarterback position is on the roster. You're going to have to play Aiden O'Connell. The coaches believe he's the best quarterback right now compared to Kenny Pickett. Based on all this reporting and just based on the situation with the Raiders, I think sooner rather than later, the Raiders are going to make a change at the quarterback position, and they're going to start their young quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Raider Nation, in the comment section below, what do you want the Raiders to do at the quarterback position? Do you want them to ride with Geno Smith the rest of the way and just finish out the season? Maybe you're a fan of the tank strategy and you say, listen, ride this wave out, make sure you end up with as good a draft pick as possible. Or do you want them to play Aiden O'Connell and see if Aiden O'Connell can be a guy for this team going forward? Give us your thoughts on the quarterback position for the Raiders. We want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. But Miles, I will throw it over to you now. Give us your thoughts on all things Raiders.
Yeah, Nick, I think it's really interesting, especially when you say, they don't have any faith in Kenny Pickett. I think that does speak, to they really do need to go ahead and go put Aiden O'Connell out there because they don't have faith in Pickett. That's fine. You move on from him. Definitely got to move on from Geno Smith. I don't think that's turned out quite the way that you would really want it to be whatsoever. But the one thing that lingers in the back of my mind, and I think the fan base will agree, is you're not 100% in or out on Aiden O'Connell right now. There's doubts that, is he the guy? Not 100% sure. But then also you think, well, there have been some flashes. There have been some really great moments. Could he be, the guy going forward? Possibly. So if you're halfway in, halfway out on a guy, I think the best option for them now, like you said, is to put him out there and evaluate him at the quarterback position fully. Get him out there, like I said, take the time, wait, get the team back, up to snuff, get him healthy again. Let's see what he can do. There's not a lot of pressure. You're not, in contention for anything really. Playoffs, nothing like that. Let's get him out there. Let's see what he can do. Because like I said, there were flashes. We all remember, last year versus the Chiefs where he threw for like 340 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The guy's done good things at times with this Raider squad. He's also done really bad things as well. Where in Tampa Bay, he only threw for like 100 yards and an interception. Not really too much of what you're looking for in a game like that. So Aiden O'Connell has been a little bit up and down. The injury is concerning as well. Is he going to be back to his potential self when he comes back from injury? There's a lot of things to explore. So I think the best option here for this Raiders squad is to explore Aiden O'Connell because you don't want to have another coach come in. Potentially, like we said, we don't think that Pete Carroll is long for this, Las Vegas Raiders world. You don't want another coach to come in and have to be like, well, what do we actually have in Aiden O'Connell? There's no reason not to find out right now. Go ahead, put him out there, and set yourself up for success going forward. I think with all the people in the building, Tom Brady, all of these smart football minds, they know to do that, and that's why I think Nick Kennedy's getting the sense that, hey, Kenny Pickett is not going to be, the guy going forward. Aiden O'Connell is. And you also got to explore the fact of, if he isn't the guy, do you want to keep him on as a backup? Do you want to, keep him on in some capacity going forward? There's a lot of stuff to explore. So I think Aiden O'Connell, looking into him, is going to be really interesting going forward. And I think that would be the right move for this Raider squad.
Well, and it's interesting with Aiden O'Connell, and I pulled up his 17-game average because he's played 2 seasons, right? Kind of bits and parts of both seasons, 2023 and 2024. And if you look at his career right now as a starter, his record 7-10. Right? That's been a lot better in terms of wins and losses than the Raiders have been. Now, granted, that's kind of picking and choosing, but still, right? If you look at the Raiders this season, 7-10 feels a lot better than where they're sitting right now. Completion percentage, 63%, not great, but not terrible. Touchdown to interception ratio, 20-11, 2-1. Again, not great, but not terrible. If you look at passer rating, 85, that's below average, but he's got a fourth quarter game-winning drive, a fourth quarter comeback. His 17-game average throwing the football is 3,800 yards. So, there's a lot of young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, right? There's a lot of young guys out there of all different persuasions, C.J. Stroud, even Bryce Young, that are given a lot of rope that don't even have those good of numbers. So, and I'm not saying Aiden O'Connell is as good as those guys. I don't even know if he is. His potential probably isn't. But there is something there. Is Aiden O'Connell a really good, capable backup that when he plays, you get to 6-7 wins? Or is he a guy that can be a starter? And I think that's a question the Raiders have to answer. They have to answer for the next coach. They have to answer it for the next staff because they have to decide for the offseason what their priority is going to be. Because they're going to only have 2 bites at the apple, right? They went into the draft and got Ashton Genty last year, who I really like. I think he's going to be a good player, but their offensive line issues are so obvious and their quarterback issues are so obvious. They need to decide what's our priority. Because if they go into the offseason again with 2 main priorities, they're only going to be able to address one, or they're going to split their time and address neither. Now's the time for clarity. The one thing that can happen with disaster seasons is you get clarity. If you end a bad season, a really bad season, and you don't have clarity, that's an even worse failure than just having a bad season. Now's the time to play Aiden O'Connell, and if you look at the reporting, I think the Raiders are about to do just that.